Let me get this out of the way right now. Happy Easter, happy Ramadan, and
Thank you.
blessed Passover to anyone holding
Pass.
those traditions.
Yes, yes, yes. There are some who do.
And I make a point of saying that because, quite frankly, when I started to write this talk, when I laid down the title, I wasn't even thinking about it being Easter. I'm a religious scientist now, and we don't have that holiday on our calendar. But it is a tradition for my family, so, and I understand it's tradition for a lot of people, so, we honor that. That's not a problem.
Yes.
And, but, I'm no longer shocked, but I continue to be amazed by the number of New Thought teachers who fall all over themselves every year looking for ways to incorporate these traditional celebrations into science of mind lessons. Yes, we are all teaching the same message of rebirth, renewal, and recognition of the temporary nature of all the things that make us unhappy. And yes, it is springtime here in the Northern Hemisphere, as evidenced by the Eurocentric perspective in all these histories recounted in the Western religious stories. And yes, we welcome all comers under our tent and want everyone to feel at home. But I teach the science of mind, and it is not my job to pay homage to traditional religions. There are plenty of resources dedicated to misunderstanding our relationship with the divine energy in which we are all united. So, if you feel ready to let the past die and join me in a new journey, welcome aboard. How have we gotten here? Every social structure has evolved from some form of hierarchy. Hunters hunt, gatherers gather, leaders emerge, and order is established. Being a little smarter than the average bear, our earliest ancestors did more than just deal with conditions as they found them, and lacking eons of compiled knowledge and observations, they naturally had a few questions. Why do people die? Why does the stream dry up? Why does the ground shake and the mountain explode? Why? 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 Well, clever leaders found that a well told story could calm the people and maintain peace and order. Clever leaders soon realized that if you're not the lead dog, the view never changes, and we humans are always looking for something new. Clever leaders also understood that remaining in leadership requires having a good scapegoat at hand when the winds shift unexpectedly. So they delegated to specialists the task of creating a narrative to explain all the unknowns that frightened the community. And knowing the stories were essentially made of nothing more than whole cloth, the stories were empowered completely by faith, and faith was given the power of law. Thus, the big unknowns are all neatly wrapped up as above your pay grade or need to know. Just have faith, and all is well. The science of mind imparts a different power of law. Science of mind sees the world and all its challenges, sees what appears as imperfections, pain, injustice, hypocrisy, and wonders. Does God make mistakes? Or does God have a much broader definition of perfection than allowed by human interpretation? Since the common belief is that God does not make mistakes, could it be possible that human interpretation is in error? Allow me, if you will, to appropriate another religious icon, Santa Claus, to tell a story of my own that may help clarify the law as understood in the science of mind teaching. Santa Claus represents spirit or God in this story. This is obvious because He can pretty much be everywhere all at once. He knows everything about everybody, creates for us whatever we want without question, can enter our most defended spaces at will, and can kiss Mama on the mouth with a wink and a nod without getting shot. Santa resides and has his workshop up there at the North Pole. Well, what else is up there? It's heaven, of course. So in this story, the elves represent law as we know it in the science of mind, mindlessly toiling away, bringing into existence all the experiences we believe. I imagine the conversation in Santa's workshop back in the day when this whole life on earth thing was being workshopped around by the elves or angels, perhaps, and they were weighing in with product ideas and story pitches. I hear this going on. Angel number one is pacing back and forth at the front of the room. And, okay, listen up. The suits of this great ambition for expanding our footprint and want ideas on the table by the end of the epoch. Now, you know the basic premise. It's the same thing we've done a million times before. The big guy tosses the bones and boom, another universe of matter starts blowing out with all sorts of physical elements randomly forming, mixing, and reacting with each other. Only this time, we're looking for something different to shake things up. Think, people! What can we do to make this existence unique? Angel number two is wriggling in his seat, raises his hand, waving frantically. Oh, I know, pick me! What about, and I'm just spitballing here, but let me finish. What if we add chaos to the mix? Angel number one, I'm liking the direction here. What are you thinking exactly? How do we introduce chaos? Angel number two, what if we develop life forms, wait for it, life forms who are self-aware? Angel number three jumps up, self-aware and have freedom of choice to think for themselves and do stupid things just because it makes them feel good about themselves in the moment. And Angel one, this is great stuff. So you're saying they have everything they need to be happy and joyful like us, but can, and just on a whim here, deny all that they know and jump into a briar patch of pain and disappointment and call it a good time. Angel number three, exactly. Push the wagon off the cliff type of stuff, just to watch it shatter. And Angel two, oh, what if we let them run wild, but keep one underpowered channel open, keeping them tethered to reality? Just enough to sow doubt in their minds and make them wonder if they are really free. Angel number one has been staring out the window, and he turns back and says, and I think you're going to like this. We leave breadcrumbs and clues all over the place to lead them back to their spiritual wholeness, but, and I hate myself for suggesting this, they have to find them on their own. I am so bad. Write this up, and don't forget that freedom of choice thing. That's going to be key to creating chaos. And Angel 2, I'll go tell the floor managers to scrap the assembly lines and get ready for some really crazy one-off production orders. This is going to be wild. Can you imagine a world full of people just choosing for themselves how they feel or what they want to do? Yikes! And so it came to be, a world populated by free-thinking beings making choices for themselves, but always tethered to a nagging belief that a better life lay just out of reach, yet readily accessible. And so here we are. But why are people such followers? It seems anti-chaos. it comes back to those clever leaders mentioned earlier. One of the choices we make is to be lazy with our thinking. Our instinct is to live in communities, and it often overrides our good sense. We go along to get along because it is easier than standing alone or calling out a lie. Clever leaders long ago sold us on the concept of duality, where pain and suffering are blamed on some other, some evil bent on making us miserable, seemingly for its own joy. These clever leaders were then able to cling to power by appearing to stand between us and the perception of evil. These clever leaders knew the secret that it is easier to fool people than to convince them they have been fooled. And people chose to forget that each is created as the image of God. Ernest Holmes writes in The Science of Mind, there are innumerable persons. Each is in direct relationship to the whole. Each is an image of God, but God is not lessened by being represented in innumerable forms and through limitless numbers of mentalities, any more than the figure 5 would become exhausted by being used by innumerable mathematicians. You see, accepting duality explains how some are unable to understand the rainbow of colors that exist between black and white. When a world view allows for two deity-level powers existing in the same space, it becomes understandable when people cannot accept the godliness that lies along the entire spectrum that is the one. Allowing for two deity-level powers existing in the same space explains how people are easily overwhelmed when faced with choices outside their narrow window of experience, or a battery of nonsensical conspiracy theories launched to conceal their truth. Now, in this country, there's a news network that lives in fear of its audience, making up stories its audience wants to hear rather than showing true leadership and reporting the actual news. The so-called sunken cost fallacy causes people to cling to false ideas when they are shown the truth because they are so heavily invested in the false idea that they're prepared to die defending it. It is like the gambler, so deep in debt that instead of walking away, throws every last dollar into another bet with the hope that this time, the results will be different. He is so far down the rabbit hole, he thinks the only way out is to keep digging. And yet the evidence of our true nature is found everywhere. The dealer who asks, "Are you sure you want to do this?" The bartender who offers to call a taxi. The friend who takes another to a meeting. People who are not students of the science of mind act every day guided by their spiritual truth. The driver at the intersection who gives $1 to a homeless person. The shopper who lets an exasperated mother go ahead at the checkout line. Our entertainment world is filled with stories where justice wins out over justification. Our heroes demonstrate through their non-public personas that their public success is simply a demonstration of the spiritual truth they live and believe. I am thinking of the athletes, for example, who fund community centers and youth activities to springboard the next generation out of poverty or despair. Now, a cynic may think it is only for the tax advantage, but when they speak, it is from the heart, and heart to heart we can hear their truth in their words. They may not be religious scientists, they may not know the science of mind text, but they know their truth instinctively and live it and demonstrate it. So, is it any wonder church attendance is waning? As people awaken to their spiritual truth, their unity with spirit, the need to group think diminishes. If we are all doing it right, there's no need for reinforcement. When we all see the image of God in everyone we see, we don't need to be told how to do it anymore. The force guides us by not being forceful. In the chaos that surrounds us, it is easy to miss the breadcrumbs scattered before us. But there is that one thread, that one channel sending that small, weak signal guiding us home. We can simply listen for it. We have tools for that. Meditation, affirmative prayer, just silencing our minds and allowing our truth to speak to us. Or we can simply accept it when our trauma drama overwhelms and leaves us unable to resist it, when nothing else is working and we are so desperate that it suddenly rings in our ears louder than any bell or whistle. Because once we lock onto it, we become aware. And once aware, we cannot become unaware. Recognizing our unity with Spirit becomes easier once our resistance is released. One thread, then another. We see Spirit here. We see it there. We see it in the mirror, and we see it in the eyes of a stranger. The image of God. We stop following others just because it is easier and start forging our own path. The discovery is addicting. The sense of independence from following the herd. The sense of power that comes from knowing we are able to create our own reality. The joy of releasing any sense of being a victim or a pawn in someone else's game. It is knowing God is not lessened by being represented in innumerable forms and through limitless numbers of mentalities. It is knowing we are strengthened by the multiple strands that make us whole. We are the image of Spirit, and Spirit is the image of us. No mistakes. Even the chaos is a bonus to be enjoyed. It is the image of God, just like the angels intended. Thank you.